Riot is changing the landscape of League forever. That's right, WildEst has been introduced to League of Legends PvE client and it is taking the internet by storm. Whether you're for it or against it, we've seen a lot of different reactions for Riot's new movement control scheme that's been based and implemented for League. But what is the WildEst and how is it creating a different landscape from what we normally know in League? Let's go ahead and find out. This is alt-tabbed. Since League's introduction in 2009, it has been a point-and-click based game because it has derived from the RTS game style that we saw from Warcraft and into Dota. Now, League of Legends point-and-click has been the staple for well over a decade now, and what every player who has begun League of Legends and even into this year has played the game worth knowing. Now, WildEst has introduced a whole new way for us to play the game using the keyboard instead of the mouse to move your character across the rift. And how is this changing up? Riot is introducing it as an accessibility and not just for players who may have trouble using the point-and-click style of RTS, but also for players who maybe have never played the game before, that have maybe played games such as Valorant that use that WildEst movement scheme to introduce them into League of Legends so that they have more of an ability to play a game that they know. Now, with the introduction of the WildEst movement, we've had both positive feedback and negative feedback. People thinking that it's completely broken, as well as some other people who are thinking that it's really not going to change the game too much. I fall into the category where I don't think it's going to change too much, but we have seen some people pushing some of the characters to the extreme on where they're finding it very easy to kite or use auto attacks while moving on the characters such as Jinx, who are usually most of the time just using auto attacks to get their main damage out. Well, we'll have to see how that translates to some other characters such as Lee Sin that are very ability centric on if they can use precise movements. Only time will tell, knowing that Riot has said that they will buff and nerf the WildEst movement based on the data that they get back. Now, as I was saying, there are a lot of posts coming out, and some most notably seeing characters I said, such as Jinx with 6 items, pressing down the left trigger button, and then moving around, attacking at a very accelerated rate. Now, we have to take this and move it into looking, is this just something that we're trying to farm engagement off of, or is this an actual issue that's being implemented right now? As I said, Riot is taking this in its vanilla form, and they're releasing it in this state so that they can get the data back to see if they need to nerf it or if they need to buff it. But also remember that there's hundreds of other champions that need to be played. I alluded to Lee Sin that uses a lot of different point-and-click mechanics to make him be played at his top level. Can we see that in WildEst? We're not sure yet because we need to see this being played by the highest skill caliber players to show if it's really OP or if it's something that won't even be played at all. With WildEst being an accessibility tool Riot is trying to use to gather new players, we have to remember that we do have the veteran players as well as professional players that we're going to have to attune the WildEst movements for as well, because we want to make sure that we're keeping the old plays and possibly a new player base in the same form together and not having one have a massive advantage over the other, especially if a lot of people move over to this WildEst movement. So Riot is going to have a tough challenge ahead of them to balance all the champions. Take one as Callista on the other hand, a very movement-based utility champion that's passive is allowing her to kind of skip around the map. Using WildEst will be greatly beneficial to her, but then you take other champions such as maybe, Viego or Pyke and trying to utilize them in the same way are going to be two different balancing acts that Riot will have to tackle to make sure that everyone is happy with the WildEst movement. Now with Riot rolling it out to PvE, eventually to normals in League of Legends, and then eventually to rank once they feel like it's in a great spot, we know that the landscape for the Rift is forever changing with the introduction of WildEst movement. Is it OP? I think it's a little too early to tell. We're only in our early stages for it, and we'll have to see how Riot then balances it out before it goes to the live server. But as always, thank you for watching alt-tab. My name is Chris. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what you think about WildEst movement and if you've played it or not. See you again soon.